Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, let's welcome Dr. Leslie to the podcast. Welcome, Leslie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. All right, so why don't we get started with you telling the audience listening or watching out there who you are and what you do.
I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist and a mother and somewhat of a good wife, I'd say. But I've spent my career mostly in criminal psychology, so working with really dangerous people and understanding the mind of violent criminals, especially sexually violent criminals. And I moved my career into trauma treatment, but also working with civil litigation. So helping attorneys and the court figure out if people are telling the truth. If they were sexually assaulted, do they have trauma? Or if someone's saying they didn't do the assault, how can I show if it's true or not?
Mm-hmm.
So I focused largely on that and recently started a social media account telling kind of satirical horror stories, but also how to protect our kids, especially on the internet, based on my experience with a lot of pedophiles.
Gotcha. Very interesting. We have to say so. So let's talk about how did you become a forensic psychologist? Why, and how?
From a young age, I was always really fascinated with people. Like, I always felt like I was that person who said, wait, I can see the adults sweeping something under the rug. I can see the adults tap dancing and not really honoring the emotions or the tension in the room or being fake. Mm-hmm. And so I always found people interesting. But then when I started to study psychology, I found the criminal mind to be the most interesting because it took the mind to the darkest, deepest places I've ever heard of. And it's not something that we often hear about at dinner table conversation. So right. I started over time really focusing on trying to understand the criminal mind and the mental health portion of it, but then also the psychopathic, what we would say non-mentally ill part of the mind.
Right. Very interesting. I don't know, like you're the people that we see on the ID shows. I like watching ID and you're the person who's explaining like the why somebody maybe committed something or a crime. So I have to ask you because, now people probably heard that and they've got this idea of like, what is her life like? What is the day in your life like?
It's always very interesting, I have to say. So a big part of my day is navigating attorney referrals. So what case am I willing to take on? Mm-hmm. And, do I have the expertise to understand the case? And do I have the stomach to take it on? Because some of it can be extremely, extremely graphic. So when I take on a case, I am sent tons and tons of materials that include violent offenses and images, stories, and often it's about children. So it is very difficult. But then I switch my hat a lot. So I'll have therapy, I'll have clients right here in this office, and we'll work through whatever is present in the room. And then I switch that hat again. I do some TikToks and Instagrams based on what I had to learn that day. And then I switch the hat again, and I'm a mom to 2 little kids. Until I can have a glass of wine at night when they're asleep.
Well, I'm really glad you said that because that was going to be a follow-up question was really just how do you find balance in the day? And I often ask people, so like when I talk to therapists and even like my own therapist, I always ask them like, because you're intaking so much and you're absorbing energy from many different places and many different people like all day. And it's like understanding like how can you manage to keep yourself like protected and keep that balance for you?
It's definitely gotten easier over time, but my mentor, and he passed away. I adored him. He told me once, he said, strive to be 100% with yourself, but 100% with the other person in the room at the same time.
Mhm.
And if you can do that during your hour with them, then you've done your job and you can set it aside until the next time you're with them.
Mhm.
And so I try to be so present with my clients, with even if I'm doing a record review or reading, and then with my kids, I just try
Mhm.
and be there. Like I stare at their little buttery soft faces and just try to be in each moment the best I can as my authentic, really transparent self without any kind of fakeness or veils.
Right, right. I love that, and I think that that is, I love that for you because I think it's so important because, like, what you take on each day is not easy, and, what you probably see or hear throughout the day can't be easy for you, so I'm glad that you do have a way that you're able to, like, take off that hat, and I like how you describe it as, like, you are taking off these different hats, because that means, like, while you are empathetic to what you are experiencing and the people you're helping, but you are able to still
Yeah.
separate it. And I'm
And I have
sure,
to
yeah.
say, it used to be taking off armor,
Mhm,
but now it's just a hat. And it's
mhm,
different. Like as I've grown in my career, I realize I can just be me and I can put on different hats. I don't have to
mhm,
change my uniform or wear a sword.
mhm,
Like I can just trust that I'm going to show up okay
mhm,
to everything.
mhm. And so, as we transition into you being an author, because she did not say that, you all. She is also an accomplished author. But I think that the work that you created as an author probably is stemmed from, your everyday life as a psychologist. And you have a book that is focused on I love this. I love this, by the way. It is about helping people to set healthy boundaries, which I imagine you've had to establish in the job, in the role that you do every day. But your book is called The Friend Cleanse, and it teaches us how to identify people and their energy, and then to, like this, strategically place them around your sphere based on if they add or subtract from your quality of life. So when I read that, you had me because I was like, yes, Dr. Leslie, yes. So first of all, can you talk about why you wrote this book?
Definitely. I started thinking about this during COVID when I realized that not only myself, but people were happier during one of the most difficult times of our
Mhm.
lives. And it was because they had this external boundary of the government regulations not allowing us to hang out with shitty people.
Right?
So when the regulations started getting lifted or we started to manipulate it, more, people were less happy. They were expending energy on relationships that they
Mhm,
didn't really care about, but they felt
mhm,
obligated to
mhm,
do. And so I started thinking, why do we need permission from someone else to protect our energy? Why can't we
mhm,
step back, set our own boundaries, and say, if I don't have a lot of friends, but I have a few that really lift me up and build me up, and by the
mhm,
end of the week, I maintain my energy and I can be authentic.
mhm,
Like, why can't we do that? That sounds so perfect. So I wanted to
mhm,
do this really small book that you can also see as a bit of a journal, and you can write in it the biggest people in your lives and define them. And then you can
mhm,
go on my website and you can move this sphere around and you can literally add them and see your
mhm,
energy go up and down. It's free. It was a graphic designer and I made it. It's just really fun to play with, but it
mhm,
gives you this external tool and this permission to live your
mhm,
best life and stand up for yourself.
mhm. I love that because I agree with you. Like I am saddened by the loss of life. I will say that. But it was also like the best time. Like it was the best year of like just being focused and present in the moment with like the people who were the closest in your life, right? Your family that was in your house. And so I think, like you said, as soon as like things started to lift and people started to like go out, I mean, I would say personally, I was very protective of my energy at that point, and I was like, mm-mm, no. I mean, because at that point, like you'd almost gone a year, right? It was like a year without seeing certain people, like just talking to them on Zoom or text or whatever. But then a lot of times, like in the beginning, people were really hot on like, let's stay connected on Zoom. Then that kind of started to fall off. And then I just started to pay attention to like, who were the people who felt like they were coming around when they needed something, or they felt like they were just sucking, like, oh, oh, I want to brainstorm something with you. And it's like, you only call when you want to brainstorm something.
Exactly.
Yeah, you only call when you want something. Like you never call just to like see how I'm doing. Like it's always like I want to do this with you, and then by default, then you have to hear about how I'm doing. So
Right.
I think that's really important. And you're right. I feel like a lot of people sort of transition back to the norm. And a lot of people now are like hanging out with people that they don't want to hang out with. They're going out with friends, like, well, because we always did it and we do it all the time. And I know, and if my friends out there listening, watching, if that sounds like you, then you should be taking Dr. Leslie's book and, going to her website and doing this exercise. So, because can you tell us, like, why is it so important? Why is it important for people to actually realize, like, who's an energy vampire in their life?
Because we only get one life. I mean, to me, we need to give ourselves permission to live our best life. And the biggest part of our lives are interpersonal relationships.
Mhm.
And, if we can't get away from a family member at Christmas, maybe we can, in our mind, set boundaries around what you're going to talk about with that person, or
Mhm.
you're going to have an out, right? You're going to have a plan to get away when they get super negative, because then you get this hangover that you have to deal with that takes away from your life.
Mhm.
So I like the idea of setting realistic expectations for people so that we don't drain our energy by being disappointed, or,
Mhm.
with the little jabs. I think
Mhm.
a great example is that we all have people we text a lot, but
Mhm.
sometimes we have this hope that it's going to move beyond texting and we're going to actually meet and hang out, but we never do.
Yeah.
So if we just say to ourselves, nope, this is just a texting friend, an awesome texting friend, but not an in-person friend, then that kind of empowers us and gives us
Mhm.
energy.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm glad that you called that, I use that as an example because I think a lot of people feel bad when they're like, oh, well, I've got this friend that I text all the time. So what? Like that might be that person's role in your life. Like I've got some friends that like I only text with, but when we text, it's like nothing. We don't miss a beat. Like we don't miss a beat. And then I've got like a friend that I text with every blue moon and we see each other like, it's like maybe once, well, since pandemic, it's been like nothing, but we're repeatedly like, we're going to get together. And I'm like, we'll get together when the time, when it's supposed to happen, we'll get together. But when I see that person, it's like we just talked yesterday.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just understand, I like that being able to just establish the purpose and the role that someone plays in your life and stop trying to give everybody the same label because
Yes.
not everybody will have the same, everybody won't hold the same role or place in your life.
Yeah. And I love the idea of bookmarking a relationship too. Like if
Mhm.
you know somebody is good for you, but they're just not good right now, then
Mhm.
maybe you bookmark and in a year you follow up and you see if that relationship energizes you and is a good fit.
Mhm.
I mean, for
Mhm.
me right now, I have like my son's 3. Not a lot of people are my kind of people right now. You
Mhm.
got to
Mhm.
know how annoying and how exhausting a 3-year-old is. Like, if you're going to tell me just let him go on the trampoline with the 7-year-olds, no, then you don't understand a 3-year-old
Exactly.
because he's
Yeah.
going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that because I like the bookmarking because I think a lot of times that happens in relationships when, especially when people have kids. When one friend is starting a family and the other friend doesn't. And the friend, because I had a group of friends at one point when we were all like in a book club together and they started having kids, and I don't have any children. And it's totally fine that their lives were different from mine, but I think like they were still trying to like make me fit into that. And it's just like, no, it's totally fine because then when we would get together, we'd have to get together, then it would turn into like kids coming. Like it started out with like, oh, it's going to be the adults. But then it's like, well, I'm just going to bring so and so. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to bring mine. And then next thing you know, it was like a play date for the kids. And I was like, oh, well, I just rather not because I know that I'm going to have to come, then I'm going to have to watch what we talk about. We can't talk about like the things that I was hoping we could talk about. You can't say certain things because I want to be respectful and I don't want to say bad things in front of your baby. So it's still like, it's okay. Like those relationships, like we're still cool. Like I still like you as a person. I think you're awesome, but we're just in different places now. And I feel like a lot of times people have a hard time. Like they feel like they failed as friends because you're not in the same space and you like have different things now, like different and things are important for each person now.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, and I love the idea of not ghosting someone, but saying, like, you are my flavor, but just not right now. And,
Yeah.
like, no disrespect, but I can't be me in the presence of you right now. And however, you need to have that assertive conversation, but, like, own it and do yourself justice by saying it to the person.
Yeah. So, Dr. Leslie, we've got people out there and they're listening and they're saying, like, I hear y'all. I'm picking it up, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but they want to just some tips to determine how to get started. How do they know? Like, is this person really sucking my energy? Because I will say I had a friend who was sucking my energy and everybody else around me saw it and I didn't see didn't see it. Well, it's like I think I saw it, but I didn't want to see it because I really liked the person. So then, like, and then when I set the boundary, like, right, you feel guilty because I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to do that person wrong. Like, how do you go down that road of saying, I'm going to set a boundary with this person? And then how do you not feel guilty about it?
I think really empowering yourself to step back and take a weekend off and really reflect on all of the relationships and the people around you, how they make you feel, and the feedback that you've gotten. I mean, I had my husband telling me for a year that I had a friend who wasn't good for me, that was just slightly too negative, and I changed when I was around her. And I stepped back and I thought, why am I pushing against my husband for a friend? And I had to really think, oh, wait, she actually does make jabs at me all the time. And I'm constantly recovering from it, but I'm justifying it because I don't want to get rid of a friend.
Right.
So honoring the feedback you're getting and your own intuition and your feelings and taking a break from everyone and just what I love is to write it out, to get like really fun markers or pens and colors and, even if it's a vision board, put everyone out there and say, okay, this is who this person is to me. This is the shit I've got going on in my life right now. I got a lot of traveling. I got a lot of work. I got this and that. So this type of person can't be a part of me or be that close to me. I'll give them one text for 1 month.
Yeah.
For the next 3 months, right? But really analytically, like it's a business transaction, set it up in your mind and then appropriately figure out how this person is going to respond to the boundaries you deserve to set.
Yeah. And if they don't respond well, then well, you have to move on because you have to protect your energy and your peace. And I feel like, even though, yes, we are 4 years, from removed from pandemic, but I think a lot of people still are very much about protecting that piece that they have been able to hold on to. Because what I think is interesting a lot of times, and I see this on like social media a lot, as much as the world reopened and people are out and about, there's still so many people who are just like okay with like, oh yeah, I missed that time where it was quiet and I really just enjoy being at home. Like there's so many people out there that are just living like more quieter lives and their friend circles, their people are smaller. They're tighter with like smaller groups of people. They're not doing the same things that they were doing. And I feel like those people are really like protecting their energy.
Yes. Yes. And there may be a point where it's too much, and then they need to start integrating more people into their
Mhm.
lives. But, as a therapist who's probably seen like 20,000 people,
Mhm.
people can really suck. But then there are also people who are absolutely incredible. And if they're
Yes.
not right there for you right now, it's okay to wait. It's okay
Mhm.
to wait and really find those people that make you better and build you up, and you
Mhm.
want to build them up.
Yeah.
You want to celebrate them too.
Yeah, I love that too. I love you pointing that out because I think too, a lot of times when we get a certain age, we're like, I'm not taking any new friends. And I can say like, right after the pandemic, I met someone who has become a really good friend to me. I'm like, oh my God, like I was not looking for new friends, but I'm so glad that I met you. And I love this girl and I think she's fantastic. So it's like you said, it's just being open to at the same time, to the potential of new friends.
Mhm.
But I think what I'm hearing overall too, it's like a lot of listen to your gut. Like your gut won't, intuition is all those things. Like it won't steer you wrong, but like just pay attention. And I imagine when the friend that your husband, alerted you to, and once you had a chance to, sit back and do the exercise and think about it, was it a really empowering moment for you to be able to set a boundary with that person?
It was very interesting because as soon as I started to set the boundary, the person became resentful. And
Oh,
I thought, "Oh, wow, if I don't let you walk on me, you get resentful and now you're showing your true colors." So
yes.
if I'm securely showing up and you can't securely show up back, then
Mhm.
F off.
Yeah,
I don't need you.
that's definitely a terrible that's really a terrible friend, not even a friend, just a person at that point because yeah, it's like we can both it's that thing like we both can win. We can both be secure. And I had a friend like that many, many years ago that like as long as I was just like the second in line, and that person was like the star of the show when they got to be like the it person, like it was all good. But then when it seemed like I mean, not like I was in a competition or, I just thought we were just friends. But when it seemed like the playing fields were even, and then that person just disappeared and
Yeah.
I got ghosted. I was like, oh, wow, like you just ghosted me. I mean, for years, it was like years. And then they came back around and then it's, like, oh, I was going through some things, which I understand that. I understand that. But it's like, but if we were truly friends, like you could have just said like, hey, you know what? I need to bookmark this relationship right now.
Yeah.
See, Dr.
100%.
Leslie, we needed you back in the day telling people to bookmark these relationships so they didn't lose like friends. But
Yes.
yeah, if more people could just be honest with like themselves with where they are, then you could probably save a lot of your friendships. Because it's okay just to be in a different place than somebody and just say that to them.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people struggle with insight and the ability to articulate what's going on.
Mhm.
But, we don't have to take care of each other as adults. Like if you're doing it for yourself and other people aren't picking it up or reading it, then on to the next.
Mhm. Yes, I love that. Awesome, awesome. I loved all this great information. I feel like we learned a lot today on the show because we got some insights into a very enlightening career, and also a lot of good information and tips on protecting our energy, which is all encompassing because you have to protect your energy like throughout the day. I bet when you get
100%.
home and I bet when you get home and you finally get that glass of wine after the kids are down, like, woo.
Oh, yes. And I turn on Housewives of Beverly Hills.
All right. So, last thing before we transition to three things with Dr. Leslie, can you tell everybody how they can connect to you and how they can find your book and that tool that you spoke about as well?
Everything's on my website, drlesliedobson.com. And Instagram and TikTok are probably the more lively accounts I have, and they're drleslie.com. No, just Dr. Leslie.
And we will also drop the links in the show notes as well.
This is not my forte, the internet. So
All right, so now we're going to go into three things with Dr. Leslie. Going to ask you three questions, just helps us to get to know you a little bit better. The first question is a two-parter. It is, and I'm so interested in this. How do you start and end the day?
I set my alarm at 6:30 regardless of the day. And I moisturize. And while that's sitting in, I chug coffee. And then I check on my kids. And normally I'll turn the TV on and let them just kind of wake up a little.
Mhm.
And then I get myself ready. And I'm usually after school drop off, I'm in the office by 8. I work my ass off most of the day, take a break at some point for Pilates.
Nice.
And then ending the day is usually with some bad television that has a high level of drama or murder mystery. And I am like out by 10.
Oh, nice. You have very full days, but for you to be able to still get to bed by 10, like, I applaud you. All right, number two. So, with all the things on your plate, how do you juggle being mom and wife?
I have a lot of calendars and I have many assistants that help me and they will hound me and be like, you forgot this. You need to do this. So daily, weekly updates, alarms and alerts. And I definitely have categories of, okay, did I check in with the people I need to today? And I have lists every day. If I don't finish the list, then at night with my glass of wine, I move the whole list over to the next day. And I constantly say, if I've been moving one thing over every single day, then maybe I don't really need to do it. And I do
Right.
it.
Exactly. All right. And last, what do you do for self-care, or what do you like to do when you're not working?
Well, I love Pilates because I feel like it's a really hard workout, but not like running or super energy sucking. I love to just lay on the grass in the sun with my kids and we just goof around. I love to walk on the beach.
Yeah.
I love cuddle time with my kids and I love date nights with my husband.
Oh, I love that. All right. And I thank you. I love that. Those are good ideas. Everybody listening out there, there's some good ideas for my parents out there who juggling a lot of things. But I think you have great people because I was corresponding with them and, and they are on top of everything. So I want to say thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today, with this community and taking time out of your schedule to join. But before I let you go, I'd like for you to give the audience the three things you'd like them to take away from our conversation today.
Oh, three things. You have permission inside you to protect yourself. You don't need anyone else to give it to you. I think you are powerful no matter how you feel today. And be okay taking risks because risks are worth it, even if they're uncomfortable in the moment.
Nice. I like it. Always say, like, gotta take a chance. I mean, because if you don't take a chance on yourself, who's going to?
Exactly. I love that.
Y'all heard it from Dr. Leslie. You heard it. Well, anywho, I want to say thank you again so much for coming. You can always come back and share with us in the future.
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.